All right. Well, greetings, everybody. We're glad that you joined us on our initial Prairie Views broadcast with Ryan Butler. And if I could, Ryan, just get you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do for Prairie Engineers.
Hey, Gabe, appreciate it. First time doing one of these, so hopefully this all goes smoothly. I'm Ryan Butler. I'm our Chief Employee Experience Officer. I also serve as our market lead for utilities and industry, which means I lead one of our financial segments, market segments for the business, as well as look after the general well-being of our employees.
Awesome. So, been looking forward to this for a little while with Ryan. So let's just kick it off with our first question. So, if you could switch roles with anybody at Prairie Engineers for one day, who would you switch roles with and why?
Gabe, I think today I've switched roles with you so I could be the one asking the questions, not sitting on my side of the table here, as this is interesting spot to be. But I don't know that I'd switch with anybody because I enjoy a mix of working with all of our different groups, all of our different disciplines, between the engineering and the surveying and mapping, and the environmental natural resources team. I enjoy getting to learn about all of our services and not sticking just with one side of our business or one service offering that we have. And I work on the private side of our business, so the clients vary from each client. So it could be an industrial client or a utility client. So I do get a different perspective of the challenges they're facing in their business. And I'm a person that likes change. So I like working amongst all these different changes that I experience every day.
To kind of a follow up to that, since you really wouldn't be that interested in switching with somebody, is there a role within the company that just particularly intrigues you, and you think you're just amazed at the work that role does?
Yeah, I got a chance to go out and work with one of our survey crews a little while ago. I do enjoy the outdoors. I did enjoy that experience, although I came home with poison ivy for about 3 weeks. But those guys that I got a chance to work with, they were showing me the direction we had to head in the field, which happened to be straight through trees and brush. They said, "This is the area we got to survey. This is the area we got to go because this is what our client wants." So I was pretty impressed personally that their attitude was a can-do attitude, and that we just basically cut a hole through the brush to get where we needed to go. And I just admired that about those guys, that it wasn't a situation where they're like, "Well, this is just too difficult. We're just not going to do it."
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to say you should admire that. I was a surveyor for a little while as a teenager, and yeah, cutting brush through thick forest and swampy and mosquito infested and snake infested and all that is no fun at all. So props to those guys for getting the job done, right?
Right.
So if there was a movie made about your career, give me the title of the movie and who would be cast as you.
This is a hard question to answer without sounding pretentious, I guess, thinking about my career, but maybe some of the effective learn as you lead, or learn as you grow, or learn as you go, for a movie title. Seems like all the bald guys are action stars. So, and unfortunately, probably be done by Jason Statham or The Rock or something like that. But I think most of my career has been about just getting comfortable with the unknown, and never really fully being ready for the next step, but taking it anyway. I mentioned earlier, I do like change, so I do like going for things, even if I'm not comfortable or maybe I don't have all the experience I need for the next step. You kind of figure it out as you go. And I think that's especially as of late, joining Prairie, coming from a different industry, a completely different industry, than this world, AEC world, and everything I've had to learn coming to Prairie about what not just Prairie does, but what our industry does as a whole. So I think, generally speaking, I've been able to succeed by being adaptable and good at leveraging team strengths and accomplishing goals. And I think I've always found my way around good people. And if I can find my way
Yeah.
around good people, we tend to succeed.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking Vin Diesel. What do you think about him?
He's bald. It fits.
Yeah, fits the category, right? And plus,
Right.
you'd get that really cool gravelly voice, you know.
Yeah, we could shoot for that. Maybe was
Cool.
mistaken for him in my younger days, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, the older you get, huh? Um, so what advice would you give to somebody who might be considering a career at Prairie Engineers?
One thing, if somebody's considering a career at Prairie, and not just Prairie, but really careers in general, I think it just comes down to what you're actually searching for. I think earlier in my career, I wasn't trying to align maybe my personal goals and what I needed as a person and align those with the company goals of the company I was joining. I was just looking for more shinier objects, more challenges, those types of things. I think as you get further in your professional career, you start to think more, or you should be thinking more about how does the values of the organization match what's going on in your life and where you want to go. So I think that's really important for anybody considering a job at Prairie, because the hard reality, unless you or it's certainly not me, are independently wealthy, or we're sitting on a lottery winnings that we have and we're just working for free and working for fun. The hard reality is that we're going to spend 30+% of our work week, Monday through Friday, working. And then if we're lucky, we'll spend another 40% sleeping. And that really gives us, less than 30% of our time to spend on personal things, and personal aspirations. And if you have kids, spend time with your kids. So it's those times don't always line up. The 9 to 5, the standard 9 to 5 dictates those times have to line up for you at a very specific time. And no matter what's going on in your personal life or what's going on in your work life, this is when you clock in, this is when you clock out. I think for most of us, there's a lot of gray areas in those times where we might want to spend more time with our kids or our family or our personal things on a Tuesday, but on a Wednesday, we may have extra time to work. And if you can find a company like Prairie that values our employees' personal time and understands the gray area is not black and white, and we accept that flexibility, not only from a remote environment, but from a working time perspective, I think that's what someone needs to consider if they're considering a job with Prairie Engineers. That, hey, if I want to work 12 hours today because I know I have to get to my kid's soccer game tomorrow, I can do that. Or if I got to be there for Donuts for Dad or other life events, that flexibility is really important. And I came from an industry where you didn't have that flexibility. And I got to see I was working in a distribution setting, and some of our warehouse guys would miss some of that time with their family because they didn't have the job flexibility. And it shouldn't be any less important for them as it is for us to get that time with their families. Just the industry doesn't allow it, or their job didn't allow it. So
you bring up some really interesting stuff, because in our industry, which is considered the architecture, engineering, construction, AEC industry, you can feel that there's a shift going on, and some companies are embracing those shifts to more remote type work environments or hybrid work environments or flexible schedules and things like that, and others are not. And you can feel the tension within the industry between companies. So it's good to know that Prairie Engineers is one of those places that's embracing some of these new ways to work and still being able to get things done. And I would say some might even argue maybe a better way to get things done. I don't know is this the first time you've worked with a company that's kind of had this approach to work?
Maybe we all felt it in COVID. I think if you were in an industry that allowed you to work remotely, it's physically possible. We all learned very fast during COVID, but the hard part, the downside of the remote environment or a flexible environment is the connectivity with the employees, and staying connected with each other. So it's definitely a challenge. On one hand, it provides lots of flexibility from a work environment, and not necessarily sitting next to your peer or having to pass them in the hallway or sit down with lunch, but for figuring out the connectivity piece and what you miss from working with people and picking up just general ideas and camaraderie being in an office. It's a very tough balance. There's definitely an upside and downside to both. So I think that's our challenge. This is our philosophy, and now we got to figure out how do we all stay connected as we grow, because Prairie's had some pretty significant growth this past year.
Well, and it's kind of like, this is the first company I've ever worked for that's, kind of had this approach to work, this hybrid approach. And I mean, I'm sitting in an office, alone with no other employees in Joplin, Missouri. You're sitting, I'm assuming, at an office or maybe your home office in Atlanta, Georgia. Yet I would say in the last 3 months since I've worked here, you and I have had quite a bit of interaction. So, it's just an adjustment to make, right? It's an adjustment to how that interaction takes place. I'm a people person, and so far I have not had any trouble making that adjustment. So I would think that a lot of others could do the same.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. It gets kind of, you're on a remote island. It gets kind of lonely. I also enjoy the people interaction. I've also been part of a large corporation where going into the office often was more of a distraction at times where things didn't get done just because there's just so many interruptions. So I think there's a balance to both. Neither are perfect, and neither are going to be perfect. Well, the best we can do is lean in on what we know makes our employees happy and can help us attract talent. And then we just got to figure out the other part.
So with that kind of in mind, like what kind of professional do you think might fit best in at Prairie, and why that kind of professional? Like who would do well in our environment?
Yeah, so I think that's another question that's changing daily. Prairie's had a significant growth this year. We've almost added 25% more staff in 2024. We have a backlog of work, good work for the next 4 to 5 years. I think Prairie would grow if we didn't land any new business. Prairie would continue to grow for the next 5 years. So we're going to be adding people to this organization. We're going to need to create new positions. So I think anybody considering Prairie or that would come to Prairie needs to be adaptable, and they do need to have a can-do attitude, which is one of our 3 core values, because these things go hand in hand, and we're going to be constantly changing over the next 5 years. Some of that will feel bad, some of that's going to feel great, and we've got to have those people come on the team and be part of that. They're going to help drive and dictate and shape what Prairie looks like in the next 5 years. So I think it personally for me, it's great. I mentioned earlier, I love the change. And I think it's going to create new opportunities for the business. It's going to create new opportunities for our employees. And I think any professionals that want to be part of something growing and feel a part of shaping the actual trajectory, and that's one of the big reasons you came here, would fit nicely here.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think if you're listening to this or listening to the recording, this is a place that's growing, and you do have a lot of opportunity to influence that growth. And if that sounds like you, man, let us know. We'd love to talk. So what 3 things make for, in your mind, an ideal client?
Oh, they pay ahead and never complain. That'd be, I think if you do any business, you would wish for that. But that's kind of joking. But again, I think it goes back to the communication piece that connects our employees together. The communication piece also connects us with our clients. So if I had to put it in 3 words, it'd be communicative, understanding, and collaborative. But mainly just giving us that feedback, good or bad, positive or negative, are both constructive to how Prairie continues to get better at what we do. If we have those types of clients that can give us that feedback, that means we can turn faster. We can make adaptations on our side a lot faster and service the client better. The clients being understanding of where we are in our situations, and sometimes that's based off of our size or our geography or when we were brought into the project, whether that be on the front end or in the case of an emergency where we're kind of brought in on the back end to help solve a problem. On clients being understanding certainly helps, and then collaborative. So, we're not just talking about being collaborative on projects we're on and integrated with right now, but who are our potential partners, teaming clients that we can be collaborative on how to solve future problems, whether that be sustainability problems or local government problems. We want to be collaborative with other firms and other clients to work on those types of projects.
Awesome. Yeah, totally. So we've got like 1 minute. So we're going to do a little rapid fire, quick 1 minute to finish the episode questions. So one book everyone should read and why.
I didn't realize we were going that fast, but I would say Extreme Ownership was the one book that changed my perspective of my career. Generally speaking, it puts everything in perspective. Everything is your fault that you touch. And then it's labeled as a leadership book, but again, it's ultimately about communication, which we've been talking about a lot here today.
Awesome. So Extreme Ownership. Is that the name of the book? Awesome.
Yeah, Jocko Willink.
Okay. Worst job you've ever had?
In college, UPS recruited hard at Ohio State when I was there, and it was the only job I think I truly failed. And they brought you in these large hiring groups of 50 plus people. I think you interviewed, got hired, and started all on the same day. And I ended up in the back of a 53-foot truck with packages firing down a ramp that would make even the most experienced Tetris player nervous. And if you messed up, a buzzer went off and shut down the entire line. So it was
No
an awful
pressure.
job.
Oh gosh.
Terrible.
All right. What's the best rock band ever?
Uh, I'm a fan of the Revivalists.
Revivalists. Never even heard of them.
Yep.
Now I'm going to go to Spotify.
There
Figure
you
it
go.
out. And last one, who's going to win the Super Bowl this year?
I'm not a big NFL fan, but I say highest probability Kansas City, but we'll see if the Ravens can take it this year.
All right. And here's a little sneak that if you didn't go here, no one else is going to know what this is, but I'm going to say OH.
IO.
All right. Go Buckeyes. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Well, guys, appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. All right. Well, that wraps up the first episode for Prairie Views, where all the engineers are strong, all the surveyors are good looking, and the scientists are above average.